We moved to Colmar in October of 2003, when my husband, Adrian, accepted a position at a local winery as their head vintner. The house they offered us with the job was just outside the town centre. One of those old Alsatian farmhouses with exposed beams, faded shutters, and a patch of grapevines running wild near the back fence. I had my hesitations, not because of the house, though it was draughty and in need of repairs, but because our son, Thomas, had just turned 8, and he was still struggling with nightmares from our last move. He didn't like change, and he especially didn't like the idea of sleeping in a new room, in a house that creaked more than it whispered. Still, Colmar was beautiful. It looked like a painting. The canals, the flowers in every window, the half-timbered houses, like something from a dream. I hoped the peace of it would seep into us. For the first few weeks, everything was calm. Thomas made friends at school. Adrian started his long days at the vineyard. I stayed home, fixing up the kitchen and trying to make the house feel lived in. The only strange thing I noticed was the air in Thomas's room. It was always a little colder than the rest of the house, even when the radiators clanked to life. I figured it was an insulation issue. Old houses always had quirks. It began with small things. Thomas started talking about a man in the wall. I chalked it up to the old plaster flaking near the baseboard. Children see shapes in everything. But then Adrian started waking up with his arms numb, feeling like something had pressed down on his chest during the night. I had my own dreams, jarring ones, disconnected images of feet scraping across floorboards, of doors opening soundlessly, of pale faces staring from corners. I didn't connect it at first, until that night. It was early December, the night after we put up the Christmas decorations. Adrian had come home late from a shipment delivery. Thomas had gone to bed early, exhausted from school. I stayed up folding laundry by the living room fire. Around midnight, I turned in. The wind howled outside. Snow had just begun to fall. I lay down and stared at the ceiling, exhausted, and sleep came quickly. And then I woke up, but I couldn't move. I recognized the sensation immediately. I'd experienced sleep paralysis once in university, a single terrifying episode where my body had gone completely numb, frozen in place. But this was different. This was heavier, more suffocating. It wasn't just that I couldn't move, I felt something with me. The air in the room was thick, not cold, just full. Like someone was standing beside the bed, breathing, waiting. Then I heard it, scraping, slow and deliberate. It came from the hallway. Then it moved closer, across the wooden floor toward our bedroom door. I was on my back, unable to turn my head, but my ears locked on the sound. Footsteps now, shuffling, like someone dragging their heels or walking with bare feet over grit. They stopped at our door. The door creaked open. I couldn't see who or what stood there. But the presence was unmistakable. It filled the room like smoke, and then silently it moved, past the bed, to my side. I felt it bend down. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there. The breath on my face was foul, rotten, wet. Then it whispered, not with words, but a feeling pressed into my mind, like ice and hate and sorrow all mixed together. My body screamed silently, begging to move. I felt my heart banging against my ribs, felt sweat pour from my scalp. And then, just as suddenly, it ended. I sat up, gasping, as if breaking the surface of deep water. The room was empty. No figure, no breath, no sound except the soft tick of the radiator. Adrian stirred beside me, still asleep. I touched his arm. It was freezing. That same night, before I could say anything, Thomas came into our room, pale and shaking. He said he couldn't move, said someone was sitting on his bed, pressing down on him. Said he heard a voice say, "You're not mine yet." I wrapped him in a blanket. Adrian, still groggy, admitted he had woken up unable to move as well, only for a moment. He hadn't wanted to worry me. We didn't go back to sleep. The next day, we brought Thomas into our bed and kept the lights on that night. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that something was watching us, like the house had taken notice of us only now, and we'd drawn its attention somehow. I started researching sleep paralysis. The scientific explanations were comforting at first. REM interruptions, neurological misfires. But the more I read, the more I found accounts eerily similar to ours. People across cultures, continents, time periods, all describing the same entity, a shadow, a presence, something that wanted to enter. Some say it's a dream, others say it's more. The worst night came a week later. We were all asleep, Adrian, Thomas, and I, when it happened again. All of us, at the same time. I awoke first, again frozen. This time I was facing the window. Snow fell in slow drifts outside, catching the moonlight. But in the glass, I saw a reflection that didn't belong. A figure behind me, standing in the corner. It had no eyes, no features. Just a blur of shadow, its head tilted in an unnatural angle. Adrian groaned beside me. I realized he was frozen too. I heard Thomas cry out faintly down the hall. I tried to scream, to move, to do something, anything. But the pressure built until it felt like my chest would cave in. The figure leaned closer in the reflection. My own breath caught in my throat. Then something shifted. I don't know what I did. I don't think it was a movement, because I couldn't move. But I thought of Thomas. I focused every part of my mind on him, on his safety, on his voice, on the tiny mole on his left cheek, on the smell of his shampoo, on his laugh when he made a joke too old for his age. The pressure broke. Like glass shattering, the weight lifted. I could move again. Adrian sat up at the same time, gasping. I ran down the hall and scooped Thomas into my arms. He was awake but sobbing, frozen in fear. That was the turning point. The next morning I opened every window in the house. Let the cold pour in. I lit candles in every room, not out of superstition, but because it felt like a way to reclaim the space. We burned sage, lavender, anything I could find at the market. Adrian took a few days off work, and we stayed together, eating meals at the table, reading aloud, keeping the house alive with noise and warmth and light. And at night we talked, not about monsters, but about love, about each other, about what makes a family strong. We didn't hide our fear from Thomas, but we taught him how to stand in the face of it. The sleep paralysis never returned. I don't know what it was. Maybe some echo trapped in the old beams, maybe grief embedded in the stones, maybe something waiting for silence, for weakness. But it didn't win. We made noise, we made joy, we filled the spaces it wanted to crawl into. 20 years later, we still talk about it, once in a while. When we visit Colmar, we pass by the old house, now painted blue, with flower boxes in the windows. Another family lives there now. I hope they're happy. I still wake in the night sometimes, heart racing, unsure for a moment of where I am. But the fear doesn't stay, because I remember what broke it. Love did.